Imagine a city brighter than Las Vegas, built over 10,000 years ago. Ships floating on canals above the ocean, walls made of a metal that glows like fire, a civilization that mastered energy before we even invented the wheel. What you're about to see is a visualization, not a historical claim, but the blueprints for this city have been hiding in plain sight for 2,400 years. Today, we're not just reading history. We fed Plato's ancient data into a simulation to rebuild Atlantis. You'll see the city rise from nothing. You'll see the moment it was destroyed. And at the end, there's a detail that makes everything uncomfortable. Let's run the simulation.
Initiating.
Around 360 before the Common Era, Plato wrote two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. Inside, he described Atlantis with unusual specificity, not vague myths, location clues, measurements, materials. Here's what we're loading. Location: beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Timeline: roughly 9,600 years ago. Structure: 3 rings of water, 2 of land. Central temple. Material: Orichalcum, a metal that glowed like fire. Parameters loaded. Initiating simulation. Simulation initiated. Estimated year: around 980 years ago. Watch closely. The simulation begins with the concentric rings. According to Plato, Atlanteans didn't just build on the land, they sculpted it. 3 rings of sea, 2 rings of land, each connected by bridges and tunnels. The outer ring alone was roughly half a kilometer of open water, surrounding the entire city. At the center, the simulation builds the Temple of Poseidon. Plato described this temple surrounded by a wall of gold. Inside, statues so large the god's head touched the ceiling, and everything was lit by Orichalcum. Orichalcum, a metal second only to gold in value. Was it just a copper-gold alloy, or was it something else? A power source. The simulation renders it as self-luminous, because that's what would match the descriptions. For reference, this is roughly the size of Manhattan. Atlantis makes it look modest. Simulation complete. Now let's see what life was like at the peak. The golden age of Atlantis. The harbor held possibly over 1,000 ships, each slot filled with vessels from across the known world. The canals weren't just for defense. They were highways. Plato described boats carrying crops, metals, exotic animals. He specifically mentioned elephants. The Atlanteans had what sounds like hot and cold running water, bathhouses with heated pools, a system that resembles engineering feats we only achieved millennia later. And at the center of everything, that temple. Every evening, as the sun set, the Orichalcum walls would catch the light and glow like the city was on fire. This was, according to the simulation, one of the most advanced civilizations the ancient world had ever seen. And they had a problem. Power corrupts. Plato wrote that the Atlanteans were once divine, but over generations their human nature diluted the godly blood. They became greedy, arrogant. They stopped maintaining the temples. They hoarded Orichalcum instead of honoring the gods. But worse, they didn't just use their power, they weaponized it. Atlantis began conquering neighboring lands, Egypt, Libya, parts of Europe. They believed they were invincible. And according to legend, Zeus noticed, the simulation is detecting instability. What happens next happened in a single day and a single night. Simulation timestamp, final day. Brace yourself. It began with the Earth. Earthquakes ripped through the concentric rings. The precision-engineered canals buckled. Then, the ocean pulled back. This is what happens before a mega tsunami. The ocean doesn't attack, it inhales. And then, the simulation calculates a wave, possibly over 100 meters high. The outer defenses meant nothing. The Orichalcum walls that once glowed with power, extinguished. In the dialogues, Plato wrote, "In a single day and night of misfortune, the island of Atlantis disappeared into the depths of the sea." The simulation shows one plausible way it could have happened. 12,000 years later, this is what remains, according to the simulation. If a city that massive sank, the ocean would be its vault. But here's what keeps researchers awake at night. There are unexplained structures at the bottom of the ocean. There is geological evidence of a catastrophic event around that window of time, the Younger Dryas. And there is a formation in the Sahara Desert, the Richat Structure, with concentric rings that some researchers note are intriguingly similar to Plato's measurements. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe the simulation isn't building fiction. Maybe it's reconstructing memory. We fed ancient data into a simulation. It built a civilization of incredible power, incredible arrogance, and incredible destruction. But looking at our world today, at our rising seas, at our reliance on technology, at our hubris, does this timeline look familiar? If you found this simulation fascinating, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And tell me in the comments, where do you think Atlantis was? The Sahara? The Mediterranean? Somewhere we haven't looked yet. Until next time, stay curious